I think you need to be, not just you, but everyone in general needs to vet their partners, right? Like, what are you contributing? What are you bringing to the table? If this goes south, how are we going to fix it? Right? And just having that solid game plan.
If people have something to potentially lose, they might pay attention.
You're checking out the Investor Shed podcast with Nick Beveridge and Jeremy Kitchen. They're on the path to financial freedom, and they're taking their community with them. Stay tuned for the best free real estate investing advice on the internet.
Welcome to the Investor Shed podcast. My name is Nick Beveridge. I'm here with Jeremy Kitchen, the Dwellin' Master himself. How are you?
I'm doing so good, Nick. How are you today?
Doing pretty awesome. If you're watching on YouTube, you get to see a treat. But if you're not, we're not even going to tell you what we're doing.
I'm not going to tell you anything.
Nope.
Speaking of not telling you anything, we've got Jeremy Kitchen on the podcast today.
Jeremy,
Whoa.
Thanks for coming on the podcast today.
It's me. I did it. I made it as a guest again.
Yes, you did. Well, actually, but the first guest, that was a year ago.
Yeah, this is season 3, baby. We're on new things.
Lots have happened. Lots has happened.
Listen, baby, we're moving and grooving. We're on new things in season 3 in the Investor Shed podcast. It's a really rundown of how I got started investing, with some new tips and a lot about business, about what we both learned, I think. So,
and we go way back. We go way back to the very first business venture we started as young videographers, hitting the streets and not getting paid shit.
It's a true story. Yep.
You're gonna love it. You guys always love it. Well, actually, most of you turn off like right about now, according to our analytics.
I haven't seen people with lower than a 5-star review of us. So speaking of, while you're here, we need you, please, leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. It greatly helps show where the show's at and helps bring exposure to Nick and I, because we love the attention.
We do. What we're trying to do, our ultimate goal is by the end of this year, we want to take our 14 viewers and turn it up to 17.
Boom, baby. Boom.
Boom. Trying to get 3 more.
We want that hockey stick growth. You know what I mean?
Oh, big old hockey.
Oh, big old hockey.
All right. Jeremy, what kind of food today?
Well, if you listen to the end of the podcast, you definitely get a tip. So make sure you listen to that. But we're going to do some biscuits and gravy. Make sure you wear a tarp, because it gets all over you. And I'm a messy biscuits and gravy eater.
Yeah, screw the bibs. Get a tarp.
Get a tarp.
Like a real man.
This is not sponsored by tarps, but somebody says you should always get a tarp.
Especially on Fridays at Harbor Freight.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes they're free.
That's free Flashlight Fridays, but whatever.
Enjoy this podcast, y'all. Well, good morning, everybody. We've got Jeremy Kitchen today.
We do have Jeremy Kitchen today. Isn't that weird? Where's our guest? Our guest is nowhere to be found. Psych, the guest is me. I'm the star of the show today, not you.
That's right. Thanks for being here, Jeremy.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Thanks for making time, as always, to make this thing happen.
And thank you for getting us new logos in the background.
Oh my goodness, look at these new Investor Shed logos. Nick's looks so much bigger and more profound than mine. Mine is very far away, and my big old head covers it up. But, every now and then in the podcast, I might go to the side a little bit, and you'll get a little peek there.
Looks like Tom Brady, though, could throw a football through that thing.
He probably could. I mean,
it's quite the throw.
It's like 3 feet away. If Tom Brady misses at 3 feet, I'm gonna...
It looks like way further away than 3 feet. So, Jeremy, why don't we get into your story a little bit? I wanted to do a podcast with you and talking just about you, because you've made quite the journey the last few years, and it's coming on 4 years now where you've been pretty much a part of our team. Do you realize that?
Yeah, actually, October 1st, 2019 was the first day I joined your real estate team on the Ginger Snap media outlet.
And this will come out just a few days after that, I think, October 5th.
Hey, well, happy 4 years to you, Nick. This has been a great 4 years. Thanks for putting all the pieces together to make this thing happen.
Well, happy 4 years to you as well. So, Jeremy, tell me, and tell the audience, where were you when I threw the idea out there that you should come work with us?
I was working at a car rental place in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. I had my safe and steady job. Everything was fine. I wasn't ever going to... I was at my effective glass ceiling in the job description I was in earlier. there was no way for me to advance any further, but I was very happy just being that second in command.
Yeah. Yeah. And what were you doing before that?
What was I doing before that? I was detailing cars. I sold some cell phone stuff online with T-Mobile. Very, very little out of a W-2 role for sure.
Have you ever done anything like out of the norm, business wise, self employed wise? Flip. I know you flip basketball cards and stuff. Were you ever doing anything like that in the past?
No, never anything like that. The first self-employment job I ever had was actually my own photography company with Jeremy Kitchen Photography. What I did know how to do back then is I knew how to take photos. What I didn't know how to do was run a business.
No, you did not.
Which is interesting, right? Like, I mean, like the photography aspect, like I can take a photo, sure. But running an effective business where you make money and you don't lose yourself and your sanity in the process, that's another deal.
Well, now that you can take some time and reflect, what is a great way to lose money if you start a business?
Partner with Nick Beveridge.
What's the second best way?
That's a joke. The first thing is, I mean, what was the question again? I'm sorry.
What would be the best way to lose money when starting a new business? If you were to reflect on, when you started your photography business, wait, when was this? 12 years ago?
Yeah, something like that. I think the best way to lose money in any business is to remain ignorant in your mindset that there's not another way to do something, right? So, like when I was doing this, I was doing wedding photography, senior portraits. I was like, there's only one way that I can do this, and it's myself. And I thought I knew everything about, I'm like, I can start a business. It's no big deal. No, it's a lot more nuts and bolts and back end stuff than you think.
Yeah. So what would you say was like the one or two biggest things that you did wrong and didn't know it at the time, but now reflecting back?
Sure. The one thing I think that really killed that business was undercutting the competition constantly and not being paid what I'm worth for my time.
Right. Yeah, you're always trying to be the cheapest guy, right?
I was very set on being the cheapest guy. I was doing weddings for like $200 to $300, which is really unheard of. But you do it just to try to build up that business and build up that flow, and then you start getting people start using you because you're cheap, not because you're providing a good service.
Yeah. How long did it take you to kind of understand that?
To be honest, I think I figured it out sometime in about 2020 or 2021. Like after my photography business was buried deep in the ground, I was like, man, I lost all my passion for this. And when you lose your passion for it, like you just don't put the time into it anymore, right?
Yeah. Do you remember how long you were running your business before you ran it into the ground?
It wasn't too long. It was probably 2 to 3 years, to be honest with you. Very part time on the side of my W-2 job at the same time. So I had other, obligations I had to be at, and it was really a time sink that I didn't care to put into.
Yeah. And it's funny. I remember you and I, we kind of did weddings together. I don't think we got paid for half of them, but but this was way even before that. So I was kind of surprised you were able to somehow stick with it because I was just like you. I had no idea how to collect money or be paid what you're worth, all that stuff.
And we would get in the habit of, when we did weddings and commercials for TV and everything together, we would get in the habit of doing the work first and then just trying to figure out a payment on the back end.
Yeah, I know. We actually, yeah, we should probably tell this. Should we tell the Little Joe's boxing gym story?
Sure, let's do it.
How much of it do you remember?
I mean, enough. So I think we started there. When we started, we approached this new boxing gym that was up and coming in town, and we were aspiring videographers at the time. Like, right, this is what we wanted to do. We wanted to create cool content, and back then we didn't know what that meant. We had a name, Lookout Video Entertainment. We did not have a legit LLC.
No, we did not. We didn't know about that.
No, we didn't. What you don't know, what you don't know, right? So, we did Lookout Video Entertainment, and I had long hair, long beard. I looked like I could be a murderer, to be honest with you. And you had an out-of-state cell phone number, and I remember I was like, "Who's gonna call us?"
Yeah, that was important back then. People only liked local numbers, but I didn't want to change.
And then, I mean, we only had one advertisement, and it was It was a magnet that you have. We didn't advertise on social media because that wasn't a thing back then, right? We had one sticker that I think your friends saw when they came over to the animal house.
Yeah. Didn't we have a car magnet?
We did have a car magnet. I'm sorry. Yes, it was that big car magnet. You're right.
Yeah, we had 2 magnets. Usually one on the fridge, though.
I think I still have one of those in my garage.
Talk about marketing.
Yeah, marketing was obviously since we started Ginger Snap, like it's so important to have a presence online, whether you're selling, whether you're performing, whether you're showing people how to. You need to be someone online who someone can relate with. And if you're not online, you might as well not even market because that's where everybody's at right now anyway.
Yeah, and at the time, I don't think we had a big online presence.
We did not, no.
We had MySpace.
We did have MySpace. I don't even know if like business MySpace things were around back then. But obviously, I mean, we've kind of gone through this journey a lot together, Nick, and you've been, pretty dang close to me my entire life. You've obviously learned along the way as well, right? Like
Oh, yeah. And you know me, I'm stupid, so I have to learn by trial and error.
Oh, same with me though. Like I think that's the best way to learn, honestly. And even like shadowing you as an investor, right? Like I can see what you're doing, but until I actually pull that trigger and do it myself, I have no idea what that actually means, right?
Right.
You could say, "Oh, I bought a flip and I made $20,000," and I'm like, "I don't know what that means," until I buy a flip and I make $20,000 on it, right? And I do the work and I figure out what happens with that, and it's been a journey, man.
Yeah, totally. I think we started. You were about to tell the Little Joe's boxing gym story. I think there was a lot more to it. You want to get into it?
Yeah. So we went and we found a boxing gym that was new in town. We approached them to see if we could do a TV commercial for them. And this has been a long time ago, mind you, so I may be leaving out a few details.
I think he approached us because he knew that we were. My brothers were at his gym, or one of the brothers, maybe Sean, and he told the owner that we were videographers, and I think he approached us wanting us to do a commercial for him.
I think you're right. Yeah, yeah. And again, back then, we didn't contracts weren't a thing.
Not in our head. I'm sure they were.
They were a thing, but not to us. We were just so excited to be like, we're going to be making a TV commercial. This is insane.
Yeah. And we had to film a promo to sell ourselves. Do you remember that? We filmed 2 videos. One was one was a promo to be able to get the job to film a commercial for them. And I don't know how many god-awful hours we spent just on that promo alone.
Right. And back then we didn't know what we were doing as far as we wanted to be videographers. We had no idea what editing and what all this stuff was. We just knew we wanted to do it. But we did an okay job, I think. So
yeah. Well, we got the job and we actually filmed the commercial just the way they wanted it. It actually went on the airwaves. And tell us how much we got paid on that.
Okay. You're not going to believe this. For that job, $0.00.
Oh, dang it.
Actually, if you think about it, we lost a lot of money if you're talking about time invested, right?
Yeah, so much time.
Again, that was our fault because we went in trusting these people thinking that, hey, they'll pay us when they can, right? Or we don't need a contract where contracts are weird and they make people sketched out. No. Contracts protect everybody in business.
Yeah, it's communication done for you without people left to interpret their memories.
And I love that too. And that's just one of the big things I've learned. Anything I'm doing now, I did a loan out of my IRA last week for $6,000. Very little loan, but I got a contract. I got a promissory note. Okay, here's what happens if you don't pay me back. Everybody good? You signed, I signed. Great.
Yeah, no memory needed.
Per my last email, which is written right here in this lovely document we wrote. So yeah, we learned about that. We didn't get paid on that, and then we ended up filming another event for that boxing.
Did we?
We did.
Okay, this is where I have a history of seizures, so my memory's...
That's all good. So we did the commercial. He said he would pay us, right? And then he had this big boxing promotion coming up where it was a live boxing event. You and I actually filmed that. Now, we did not edit it because he stopped paying us, and that was when, he's like, I remember this quote. He said, I'd pay you on the 18th. And we're like, dude, it's the 18th.
And he said, oh,
I don't have the money. All right, then you're not going to get your product, dude.
I think he wound up in jail.
Yeah, he could have. I'm sorry if you're listening to this, dude, but you owe us some money. I'm not going to come collect or anything.
I don't even remember the guy's name.
I don't either. Contracts, man. That'll help you.
Yeah. And then we did another event shortly after or before that, the River City Rod Run.
We did one of those. We did multiple of those for sure.
Yeah, a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of editing, big bucks.
You know what's weird about like media and everything? Like we were so stoked to be on TV, what was it, 15 years ago with our commercial. Now you can literally just click post to Facebook and then you can run an ad. Like I watched your ad for the AJ Osborne Investor Shed episode. You got like 9,000 views on that.
Paid for it.
You only paid for it, but I mean like you pay to put it on TV anyway, right?
Yeah, it eventually got 25,000 views, I think. And it cost $700. And it had 800 and something people click on the link. So yeah, Facebook's kind of like TV.
Yeah, it's kind of like TV. I mean, just the more places you market, the better your chances are of finding somebody that will see you. So
Anyway, that River City Round Run, again, we did a full event. Didn't get paid for that one. I can't remember why we didn't get paid on that one. Do you remember?
I don't remember. No. I know he wanted like a rework of the edit, so then we went back and reworked it, and he was already playing the version that we gave him in the store. This is back when we had to give people DVDs of like, here's the DVD. I'm gonna trust you with it, right?
Oh, I thought it was a VHS tape.
We gave him DVDs for sure, and then he just played DVDs throughout his restaurant. But yeah, if you're doing any of that stuff, make sure you watermark it. Put sample video across the front so he can't use it. Make it a very low file size, so even if he used it, it's going to look like crap. Obviously not too big of a deal with that anymore, but yeah, make sure you're protecting yourself in all assets of business.
Yeah. So after our attempts at trying to be videographers, obviously I went off to, I can't remember, I think I went off to go be a car salesman in Kellogg or something like that. Do you remember what you ended up doing after that, after we couldn't really make it as business owners?
If my memory serves me right, I think I went to detail cars and detail automobiles for a while. Probably about 6 or 7 years of that. So
Gotcha. Now, during that, in the whole time up until where you started working with our team and getting involved with real estate, have you ever considered running a business someday?
no, legitimately never. I had no desire to. I didn't know how to do it, and I think I was scared of the unknown with that, right?
Yeah. Now, I think that's really unique with you because most people that are entrepreneurs or business owners that I've met anyway and that I've interviewed, they've always had this deep desire or craving for that. But I believe you're like the classic case of like you were just surrounded by these people, right? That were doing this thing, and you are the 5 people you surround yourselves with. And I think that's the classic case of what happened here. But do you mind going into the story of when you were hired on and then we tried the media gig again?
Absolutely. So I remember you set up a meeting with me. I wasn't really sure exactly what you wanted, but then we talked, and the thing I love about you, the thing I'll always love about you, Nick, is like if you have an idea, it's getting executed one way or another. Like there's no stopping your train of thought because you're just like, I should do this, and then that thing just manifests itself, right? So we
Well,
met
thank
up
you.
at a restaurant. What was that restaurant?
Franklin's Hoagies.
You did. You took me out for a hoagie wogie. It was very nice of you.
I'm like, hey, we haven't worked together in 15 years. What do you say?
Let's go get a hoagie. So yeah, no, you pitched Ginger Snap Media. Like I loved the thought of it, but honestly, it was terrifying day one. I'm like, this guy wants me to leave like everything that I know. Again, I was working at a car rental place for it was almost 5 years at that point. I was second in command. There was nowhere for me to go, and I was overworked and underpaid, but I was making a steady paycheck. So it was, yeah, and it was okay, right? Like I wasn't like making any huge progress in my life, but I was, making my bills paid, and I thought that was really cool. But then when we talked about Ginger Snap, we ended up finalizing that. I think you had a broad sense of like what it would be, and I don't think we figured out what it was going to be until like 3 years later. But when we first started, we were very cheap as far as price. We were very cost effective, which made it hard to turn profit. But with that, what you also got out of that business, I think we've talked about this before, is you got a photographer for all of your listings. You got to do marketing videos, 360 tours. Like you got somebody just boots on the ground for all of your listings, and that came out at cost for you guys. So that was really nice.
Yeah. And it did, I mean, it saved us quite a bit of money, even though it was definitely an expense in a different business. But my overall experience with Ginger Snap Media was very positive. Even though I did constantly coming to your office and complain and yell like, "Why aren't we doing enough?" But that's just, as long as you can put up with that. It's yeah, I don't mean anything by it.
And we're still here and we're still kicking today. But like, the what I did far surpasses like what monetary gain you got. Right. So in Investor Said season 1, I was the original editor. I was the guy setting all this stuff up.
Yeah, you're the whole reason why we were able to start this podcast from the
Right.
beginning. Like you're in the background, and that business never showed an expense or a budget for doing a podcast. It just was taking that opportunity time away, but ended up having great effects.
Here I am today. I mean, I love it. So, but yeah, we did that, and then I'm not sure if we talked about how we actually transferred Gingersnap ownership to me, but I started doing the hard money lending and the hard money brokering. Another one of Nick's famous ideas where he's just like, I think we should do this. And I've been around you long enough. I'm like, yeah, that makes sense, right?
Yeah, it's all about execution, though. Can we actually consistently do something every day that we're passionate about? That's the trick.
But it's just been, that was a footing step into the door of investing for me. And we did that on a whim. I think it was after you guys were going to get a well drilling company, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think it was after that idea died. I think is when I wanted to. That opportunity just came. It just happened to come up because somebody else was supposed to work with these guys, and then it didn't work out with him. And then I just immediately thought, dude, Jeremy could be a great opportunity for this position. But before we dive into that, do you mind telling a little bit more about your transition from the W-2 mindset to the entrepreneur mindset?
Absolutely. I mean, speaking just in fact from a ginger snap standpoint, right? Like, I think when I was a W-2 employee, like I had a very W-2 employee mindset about ginger snap, right? Like, okay, I'm here, I'm getting my paycheck, I'm helping where I can, I'm doing my best, right? And then we transferred the keys over to me in exchange for some videos and some other things for you guys, which I think is working out really well for both of us. Yeah, 3 years later, like we cut the costs for you, so you don't have to have that financial burden, and it allowed me to really do what I wanted with it.
Yeah, which I'm sure you have a whole new appreciation for that once you have ownership of it versus being an employee in a business.
Right. And it's different because, like, right, I can, if I'm like, oh, I think I can charge this, I just go ahead and change it on the website.
Yeah, no approvals needed.
Right. I make deals with people who are like, hey, if you get all of our photos and all of our videos, like, what are you going to charge each listing? Cool, let's talk, man. So just it's been a good thing. I've made a fair bit of change with it this year, which has been nice, and it's allowed me to get back into investing, which is cool.
Yeah, totally. So, can you talk a little bit about if somebody is listening to this and instead of, I mean, we'll get into hard money, I'm sure. But if they're interested in starting a media company from the ground up, what are some of the things that you recommend that they start with?
If you are interested in starting a media company from the ground up, I would say do your research before you do anything. And literally just go on YouTube, google.com, and find out, like, hey, if I wanted to start a photography business, what all is needed? Because it's not just taking the photos and delivering photos. It's a business now, right? Okay, we need a way to deliver photos to clients. What's an easy way to do that? We've got our view shoot. What kind of photography are you doing?
What's ViewShoot?
It's a video and photography hosting platform where it accepts payments. It's basically like a CRM. It controls all your customers, and it doesn't allow people to download the photos until the photos have been paid for. It just really makes it so I don't have to do all that back end work and chase it. There's a monthly fee with it, which is great. I love it. It's just a business expense, but
How much is that monthly fee?
it depends on what you get. I think they start at like $35 a month, which is nothing.
So just for and I know kind of how this works, but just for the people that are listening, I don't know, just having something like ViewShoot in place will, in my eyes, and you tell me if I'm wrong, but I mean, it takes the business side of things and simplifies it like crazy, and puts 80% of your systems in place just by using all the functionalities of that, right?
100%. My clients can schedule photos themselves on the website, which is cool. Like, I don't have to be involved with it. They just click the day they want, and I say yes or no. It takes out a lot of the legwork for me, which is great. I don't have to be going around chasing people for payments, for non-payment issues. Look, dude, if you want your photos, pay for the photos, and then once you paid for them, you can download them.
Be great if ViewShoot was only available when we were straight out of high school.
I'm sure it was, or something like it was, but that was the mindset of a small person who's like not a growth mindset, right?
Yeah, they don't want to invest any kind of money at first until they know it's essential.
Right nowadays, it seems like there's not a day that goes by where like my business isn't being hit with some sort of expense, and that's okay. Like,
Yeah. What other expenses could somebody anticipate other than like an online software?
if you have your own equipment already, that's great. But I think the way technology works is you're going to be constantly upgrading. That's what I've been doing, just trying to get better lenses, better camera bodies, better ways to make better content for my clients, right? Because it's highly competitive out there. I will say that. There are a lot of good photographers. There's a lot of great photographers. There's even some that are better than me. I'm just being honest, man. Like, this isn't. I'm not trying to sell my business here. I think there are people who can do a better photo than me. There are also people who do worse photos for more, and I think at the end of the day, it comes down to working with the people you know, like, and trust, right? Like, and I've had conversations with my clients that say like, like, you don't even need to be the greatest. You just need to be efficient and get the job done, and that's true.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's I mean, that's half the battle when you're trying to find somebody to do work for you. It's like, will they actually return my calls? Will they execute on this? The quality is only one small factor with like let's say with a real estate agent just trying to get photos done. It's like, can you be there at this house at this time? And then will we have our photos within a reasonable amount of time after that?
And same thing, like Alex Hormozy goes into this a little bit. He's like, people do business with you for the person you are, the price you have, or the product you give. And I think there's those three, and then there's one more P as well. So there's also procedure. There's how you handle yourself and how you handle business. So one of four of those things are going to be the reason why people do business with you. And it's my job to try to hit a couple of those blocks. I don't hit all of them, but I hit a couple, and that's okay. I've got my fair share of the market in photography and videography. I'm good.
What would you say is something you kind of struggle with?
Lately,
Yeah.
mm, letting go of the reins a little bit.
Okay, and what do you mean by that?
Like, I'm still an in-house editor, so I edit all of my photos, all of my videos, which is fine.
Right. Okay, and a lot of your competition
A
doesn't.
lot of them don't. Exactly. It's hard to let go of those reins, man, but I see the value in it, and I've talked to other photographers in the area. I do make it a point to actually network with other real estate photographers in the area, just because I think we can all learn together, right? If someone's like, hey, man, how did you do that? I have no problem telling them how I did it, because it's not going to affect my client share, right?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so either. And if it does, great. That's but good for them. I'm still gonna continue to thrive and go after new business anyway. So
Okay. And what would you say is one thing that you do really well?
I think I communicate with everyone really well. Honestly, in my head, I think I'm a person who people want to do business with, just because I do have a pretty boisterous personality and I'm fun. And that kind of stuff, especially when you're doing video work, really shines through to the client. Like, I'm helping you coach, I'm helping you do these things, and I think people see that kind of value that I provide.
Yeah. Good. Couldn't agree more. All right. So, what were some of the things that kind of changed your mindset? Were the books you read, anything anybody said to you over the last few years that kind of made you think that maybe be having a job for the rest of your life doesn't maybe sound as appealing as it did in the past?
Sure. And I'm honestly going to credit this all to you and your team, Nick. Like I said, well, hear me out. Like, right when I started, right, I was very W-2 mindset. I was pretty scared because I was kind of jerked away from my comfort zone, honestly. And then I got to working with you and Joe and Tyler and the rest of the North Idaho REI team. And I realized very quickly that I was one of the only employees on the team. I also realized that the people who were entrepreneurs were making a fair amount of money and doing pretty well for themselves, right?
Yeah. And for those listening, I mean, it didn't happen overnight. All these people that started with us, they weren't an overnight success. It took time to build up their income levels. So I mean, it's there's definitely a trade-off there. It is nice to just get a job because you're just instantly getting this steady stream of income and the anxiety isn't as high because you can anticipate paying your bills a lot easier than because I mean, I've been an entrepreneur for a very long time, over a decade, and I have anxiety here and there when when
What?
things
No
aren't
way.
going. And it's just something that you just got to accept. And I wouldn't trade it for the world. Once in a while, I play with the idea of, man, it'd be nice if I just had a normal job for a while, just for the peace of mind. But then I just get too bored.
I got your text the other day too when I know we're interviewing me, but you said you applied for a job. Have you told anyone where you applied?
No,
And we're not going to tell people?
I haven't told anybody about this. I applied at SpaceX for a job that was nearby, and 90% chance I won't hear from them at all. But it's just something that interests me. I don't think I'll ever apply for another job in the future, but it was just something that came up that I thought, hey, if I get something like this, it might be worth putting everything else on pause.
I remember I got that text from you, and I thought you were joking at first because you only said like, "Hey, by the way, you might get a phone call from somebody. I put in an application for a job."
And I put you as a referral.
Yeah, yeah, you didn't say where, but I'm like, is he kidding? Is he joking? Because that doesn't sound like the Nick Beveridge I know.
Yeah. I had a rough month.
Yeah, hey, all good, man. I get it. It's but it makes sense that it's like SpaceX, right? Because like I do think that would be a really tremendous opportunity, especially for someone like you who's like, pretty ingrained in the Tesla culture and thinks Elon Musk is a genius like he is. So
And the unique position I'm in is like I feel like if I really wanted to, I could get a job somewhere else if I really wanted it. And I don't necessarily have to stop what I'm doing. I can still have my position as a real estate agent, team leader. I can still do the podcast. And then I would cut out almost everything else. But I'd still have my rental properties. It's not like I'd have to sell my rental properties because I got a job. It would just, so it was just an opportunity that came up that I just wanted to see if anything would happen.
like you got to jump at those opportunities when they come up.
So I remember clearly once, I think it was just a few months after you started with us, you came in and you're like, I've been listening to Rich Dad Poor Dad on my long drives to and Plumber and Spirit Lake. Because as a photographer on our team, you had to drive pretty much all over the few counties that are around here.
For anyone listening to, like, we're in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, and like Plummer and Spirit Lake, they're all like 45 minutes, 30-minute drive. Sometimes you go to Sandpoint, Idaho, which is like 45 minutes to an hour. Sometimes you're in Moy Springs, which is like 2 hours, and it's just you go where the wind takes you and where the clients need you, right? And yeah, I decided to start listening, just being ingrained in your culture and ingrained in what you guys were doing. I had this cool Audible membership. I had extra credits. I'm like, why don't I see what all the fuss is about?
Yeah. Was that the first kind of entrepreneur book that you started with, Rich Dad Poor Dad?
That's the first one that I remember. Yes.
That's the ultimate gateway drug.
It really was. I think after I finished that, I remember coming directly to you like, I just read Rich Dad. Do you have anything else like this that will like change my mind?
Change my mind about what I'm listening
Yeah,
to.
yeah, exactly. And like make it so I'm more intentional with what I'm doing with my time.
What were some of the things that if you remember, because I mean that was a while ago, but was there anything particular in that book that struck you?
Yeah. Honestly, a lot. It was pretty eye-opening from a lot of places. Obviously, the concept of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Robert Kiyosaki has his two father figures, one of them who is quite wealthy, one of them who is not, and that's okay. But he's learning from both of these different figures. And what I realized is like I've only had the one figure in my life, and I love my dad forever, obviously. But my dad has a poor dad mindset, right? Like my dad is going to be working until he dies, and that's a hard thought to digest. Really, like investing in real estate, like this is a way for me to hopefully take care of my parents.
Gotcha. So you're able to figure out a why.
Right, exactly. Like I want to provide a better life for them. I don't want them to have to work forever. I don't know, man. It was eye-opening in a lot of facts for that, for as far as, like, working for yourself rather than working for other people. Real estate, obviously, buying real estate and having real estate pay your bills basically. Like the concepts really just struck a chord for me, as I'm sure they do with millions of people who have listened to that.
Right. So you didn't come to me the next day and you're like, "Hey, by the way, I quit and I'm starting a new business," or anything like that. You slowly kind of got into investing, right? Can you talk about what it was like buying your first house and then how that was able to and at the same time, I believe we bought that investment together and you were able to raise money separately for that. Can you get into how you were able to snowball your investments?
Yeah, and honestly, like that was buying a house felt like the most scary thing I've ever done in my life. Before that, it was like quitting my job and coming to work for you. So learning and getting out of my comfort zone has been really, really good for me. But about the same time, so I ended up dating your transaction coordinator, Sam. She just finished her first flip, which was really cool. I was helping her on that, and just running numbers on her first flip. I'm like, oh, you're gonna make like 30,000 bucks on this. That's so cool, right? And in my head, I was like, $30,000 is almost as much as I've made in an entire year at my maximum ever on a W-2 job, which is bizarre.
That's just the way it is.
Right, and that's the way it is. So I remember when she was doing her first flip, it all kind of happened at the same time. So I'm not sure exactly what happened first, the chicken or the egg here. But I was like, I need to save money. I need money so I can buy a house. And so at that point I had a whole bunch of sports cards. I think I sold probably like $20,000 in old Kobe Bryant cards. And I saved that. And I remember this is when I was bugging you. I was like, Nick, I've got $20,000. I've got $20,000, right? And I don't know how many times I asked you, but I'm like, I've got enough to make a thing happen, I think.
Actually, can I interrupt here? If I remember correctly, I remember you had $10,000
You're right.
and I said, "Come back to me when you have $20,000." I'm like, "I think you need a little bit more in an investment, at least enough for like a renovation. If you have 20 grand, if you can save that up, I think we can find something."
That is absolutely right. You are right. I remember that because I had the 10 and I was like, okay, now I've got like a spot I can shoot for. Like I have a number in my head, 20. And I think I just, I converted an old IRA, which I had like 3 grand in, just sold some more stuff around the house, and I scraped that money together.
Which is insane if you think about it, because I remember when you joined our team initially 4 years ago, you had this huge lavish goal of someday I want to, by the end of the year, I want to save $10,000, right? So that was this, ultimate lifetime type of goal at the time. And then in just a matter of, a couple of months or something like that, you were able to save an additional 10,000.
And what I wanted to, what I wanted to do with that 10 grand, do you remember what I wanted to do with it?
Buy a car?
I want pay off my car. I wanted to pay off my credit card and my car. That was literally what I wanted. I was going for like the Dave Ramsey, pay off all my debt so I can start fresh, which I do see value in that. Not that I don't,
Yeah,
but I also see value in leverage.
totally. Which made a lot more sense back then when interest rates were 3%.
Not quite that way anymore, but that's okay. So yeah, it was that time you told me to get up to 20, and I got up to 20. And then you found us a deal. We partnered on that. We went 50-50. That house was a nightmare and a blessing, I think, at the same time.
Yeah. I mean, it was a house.
It was a house, that's for sure. I think we've told the story before, but we bought it from a wholesaler, and we weren't allowed entrance into it until about 5 months after we bought it, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. But we had an appraisal and we had the good word of our wholesaler that it's in good shape.
It is in good shape.
And the appraisal, typically they would notate if the house was in chaotic condition. But it was so weird that appraisal did not note that the ceiling was caving in and that the floors were falling through.
Yeah, there's no subfloor in multiple areas in the house.
Yeah, the subfloor had softened up so badly that there's holes everywhere.
Yeah, it was It was a really, really, really good learning experience on that first flip. And about that time, so obviously, like this, I said this, it kind of happened at the same time. So Sam and I decided we were dating for, it was probably 6 or 7 months at this time, and we couldn't get approved for anything. There was very little we could get approved for, and house prices in North Idaho kept going up. So we were like, it's really now or never. We can either partner on this, we're not married or anything, but we can buy a house together. Worst case scenario, we split up and we split the house, and we can still figure it out to make money, right? We can work amicably and make that happen. But we bought a house. We got on the new construction list in Coeur d'Alene back when they had a list. I think we were like 70th or 75th on the list. And for some miracle, I don't know who pulled some strings. If it was you or Joe, I love you guys both forever, but we got bumped up on that list. Might have been Joe. And I know like other people ahead of me, obviously, they say no to that house because it's the smallest house on the block, whatever. But we got our shot, and we were approved for 320,000. This house costed 310,000.
Yeah. And it probably felt like you're buying at the peak of the market.
Oh man, it was so terrifying buying my personal residence. I'm like, are we nuts buying a house for 300,000? And all I could think of in my head was like, when my brother bought his house, he bought it for 126,000.
Yep. All you thought was price.
All I thought was price, right? I was not aware of market appreciation or anything like that. So we bought it, and within a year of owning this house, we had almost 40% equity.
Yeah. You guys hit the jackpot. And everybody in the county hit the jackpot, but you guys hit the jackpot especially hard because you were buying a new construction property where I feel like you guys bought a property that if it was a resale, it could have sold for 30 grand more easily at the time that you were closing on it. But you just slid in just before things went absolutely nuts. And honestly, it felt like things were going nuts the year or two prior to that.
That's why I was so scared of it, right? I'm like, dude, we're gonna spend 300,000 on a house? Is this insane?
A house like this just went for 250 a year ago.
But that's the way the market works, right? When we got in, and like I said, we got almost 40% equity, so we had almost $200,000 in equity within a year of owning that house, which is unheard of. Is the greatest run up of appreciation in North Idaho. I don't think we'll see anything like that for the foreseeable future. I do think things have kind of leveled out around here in a way that like people are almost outpriced unless rich people are coming in from out of town buying. Like your average Joe in the town who's just an average W-2 employee with an average partner who's a W-2 employee, probably making 100 grand a year, probably can't buy a $550,000 house.
It's tough. Yep. So anyway, so you got in. You can call it lucky, or you can just call it smart or timing. But it's all about, it's so cliche, but it's not about timing the market. It's about time in the market. You just happen to be in just before things went absolutely historically crazy.
And I would attribute it to luck, but I do think there was big learning lessons that happened from this, right? Obviously, like never buying a house in my life before, I'm like, oh, this is a good way to build massive wealth, right? This is a repeatable system where now I have this equity in my house. I can use this equity to invest in other projects. And that's exactly what we've done with it.
Yeah. And I remember at the time, I think I had 8 or 10 investment homes, and I got to experience that too. That run up where, holy crap, like almost overnight, all of a sudden I went from being like barely a net worth millionaire to, holy crap, I have like almost 400 or almost $4 million in equity here. It was insane. And absolutely everybody got drunk, I think, with values and expectations and expected interest rates to stay where they were and all that stuff. But tell us a little bit more about how that year went. You and I bought that first property. It was not what we were told it was, but we bought it anyway.
And that's all good. Things happen, right? But so when we went in, I think your original rehab budget was around $25,000.
Yeah.
And that would just like replace some carpet, throw some paint on the walls, maybe clean up a couple things around the yard. and let's pump this bad boy back out and get it back on the market. I think, if numbers serve me correct, I think we spent $150,000 rehabbing that house.
Yeah, we'll have to go back and look. Probably. Definitely more north of 130. Now, do you remember why we spent so much?
No. I mean, it needed it. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been able to make our money back on it.
Yeah, we had to rebuild the house.
Yeah, we had to rebuild basically everything from the ground up, other than the walls.
Yeah, the walls stayed, but this was the absolute most insane renovation I've ever been a part of, where all the trusses were rotted out and falling through the ceiling. So we had to rip out, for those that know construction, rip out everything above the walls and start fresh. Rebuild new trusses, new roof, and everything that comes with that. Insulation. And then below our feet, too, we had to rebuild.
Everything not at eye level had to be replaced, I think.
So when a wholesaler tells you everything's fine, you can't go in, don't buy the house unless you have an actual inspection, an inspector working on your behalf.
That's a big takeaway I've learned from that too. Honestly, like, you just can't. You want to trust people. Like, I want to trust everyone I'm in business with, but sometimes you just need to do your own due diligence on it.
Yeah, and these people were people you think you can trust.
And regardless of like how it worked and how much money we put in, I think so. We bought that house for, what was it, 194 or 184?
Yeah, I think after the wholesale fee, was it 210 or something?
210. Yeah, 210 after wholesale fee. From there, then I think we put another, like I said, 120, 130 in it. So we're at, 340. Pretty crazy. From there, we actually refinanced with a hard money lender we work with, and we're on a 5-year note right now, and we're cash flowing.
Yeah, but here's the crazy thing. We spent $100,000 more than what we anticipated renovating it. $100,000 more. And because we bought right, we're not in a negative situation. I mean, that house is worth $400,000. We're all in somewhere around 340, 350. And we've been cash flowing for the last year. Our lease is getting renewed this month, I think.
And when we cash out refied with the hard money lender, we actually got a little bit of money back.
Yes, not all of it.
Not all of it, but we got a little taste of our money back, which was pleasant.
Yes, because the loan was based off the value, not what we had into it.
Right. And the good thing, obviously, so around that time, like I said, I got my HELOC. So I was using my HELOC for investments. I was doing hard money loans, partnerships out of it. Good thing I had that HELOC money. Otherwise, I would have been pretty tapped as far as what I could have contributed to that partnership.
Do you want to talk to people about how you were able to get that HELOC and how easy it was for the very first bank that you went to? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, so the very first bank, that's funny. Side note here, if you need an opinion on something and you're not sure what the opinion is, get another opinion. First bank we went to and we got our HELOC, they were like, yeah, you guys can absolutely get a HELOC, And then a couple days before everything was supposed to close, they were just like, no, we don't want to give you a HELOC. Yeah, so they already ran our credit and everything to make sure we were approved for it. And I'm like, we're already dinged. Like, what now? I went to a credit union in Coeur d'Alene, and blindly, they're like, we don't even need an appraisal. We'll give you $20,000 HELOC, which was very tempting, right? Like, okay.
And which bank was that?
This was STCU, Spokane Teachers Credit Union.
Okay.
So they said they give us $20,000, no questions asked. I was like, that's pretty cool, right? And, Sam and I were like, do we take it? We've already got our credit dinged, and we were really worried that like we were just going to miss out on the opportunity to capitalize on this awesome equity. So second opinion gave us $20,000 quote. Third opinion, we went to Numerica Credit Union, which just a credit union across the street. They're like, if all goes well and it appraises, we can get you a good HELOC on this. So we ordered an appraisal. Appraisal come out. I think our house ended up appraising at $527,000. Again, we bought it 12 months earlier at $310,000.
Yeah. And how much did you put down when you bought it?
We are an FHA loan, so we put down 3.5%. But then we also did a percent pay down. So our interest rate on our house is only 2.25, which is pretty cool.
Super low.
Yep. Super low. Mortgage payment is, we can handle it. We're good there. But we ended up getting the appraisal right. And then Numerica said they give us a HELOC for $170,000. Now, I remember Sam yelled at the lady who told us that on the phone. She cussed at her. Like, on the phone, she went, I'm going to cuss on the air. She's like, what the fuck? to the lady who was telling her how much HELOC she was getting.
But it was a good what the
It
fuck.
was a good what the fuck, correct. But I'm like, don't yell at them, please. They're in charge of giving us money. Don't scare them away from this.
It was an exciting what the
It
fuck.
was. But yeah, so since then, like I said, we've done multiple investments out of it, and it's been our lifeblood to kind of keep us going. Obviously, with a HELOC, you need to have a plan to pay it back. For anyone listening, HELOCs are a great way to get started into real estate investing, a great way to utilize your equity without changing or getting a cash out refi. The difference is obviously you get typically a 10-year credit line where it's interest only for the first 10 years, and then after your 10 years are up, you have to start paying principal on it.
Yeah, totally.
So right now we're 2 years in, and we've got 8 years of interest-only HELOC payments. But with the market going up, it has made it hard to use the HELOC for investment purchases.
Right. Now something I want to throw out there in case people are wondering, well, why don't I just refinance? For instance, Jeremy, you said you have a 2.25% interest rate on your home. If you were just to refinance your home to get the cash, a couple of things will happen. Your interest rate will be probably in the 7s or 8s. So your payment will probably double, and the money that you get out of the cash out refi, yes, it will be tax free, but you'll be paying interest on all of it because it will just be in your account. The HELOC is a line of credit, and you only pay interest on what you're using, and it's a separate loan. So you're getting a loan on the equity and not just refinancing your entire house with a brand new loan, brand new fees, and starting from scratch. So your original loan is still in place. You're just getting a loan on the equity. I feel like what you've done is the way to go.
Right. And obviously if situations were changed, and this is like, cash out refis definitely have a place, right? If the interest rates were low or, very close to what I was doing.
And somebody has a lot of equity.
Yeah. I mean, just figure out what ways work for you, because there's more than one way to skin a cat in this business, right? Like if interest rates were low, yeah, maybe a cash out refi makes sense. But since interest rates are, up 5-6 points from where I bought the house, it doesn't make sense.
Right. And it probably won't for a long time. But there's probably a lot of people out there listening that have a great loan already locked in place. I mean, 75% of the homes out there that are financed have an interest rate of less than 4%. That's 3/4 of all the loans out there. And I think half of them are less than 3%. So there's a lot of opportunity out there for HELOCs. And it's a great way to not screw up a good thing that you already have if you want to utilize your house equity for investments.
I think it's great too. Like you said, it's a separate loan. So when I deploy my HELOC into an investment, it's not actually making my house payment go up. Like it has nothing to do with that. It's a separate line of credit, and it has its own payment scale and system.
Totally. So what kind of investments were you able to make with your loan?
First one was a really fun one. I remember as soon as we got it, so we had $170,000 sitting in our account. What we did is we walked into your office and we said, "We've got $170,000. Who needs funding?" And a couple people, yep, a lot of people will raise your hand when you're flaunting around money like that all willy nilly. People will bite. First thing we did was we did a hard money loan on a property for a couple of your employees at the time. Not employees, I guess agents. And it was out in Smelterville, Idaho. They bought it at a really good price. I gave them stellar terms on the note.
Yeah, what kind of terms did you give them?
I gave them 10%, no points.
No points. Okay, so no fees for doing the loan.
No points, no down payment. So we just funded the entire project. Their house was $120,000. They were thinking when they sold it, it would sell for about $240, $250, and it was going to be a wholesale deal, which is basically a combination of a wholesale and a retail. So you go in, you kind of clean up some cupboards, vacuum the floors, clean the windows, and put it back on the market. And we knew that I'm like, okay, worst case scenario, if they default on this, I just get a cool rental. Like it was secured enough where I'm like, all right, we're at like 50% ARV. If this goes in the gutter, we'll just sell it and we'll be okay. And we probably would have been more okay, but that's okay.
So for the people out there that kind of missed it or confused about how you set this loan up, just to reiterate, you did the entire purchase for these agents, 120 grand, used your HELOC, and you said, we'll give you up to 1 year to pay it back or to sell your property, and we're charging you a 10% interest, annual interest, but you had a catch. You wanted 12 months.
12 months guaranteed interest, correct. Which is, I'm like,
That was a slimy thing to do. Tell us why you did that. Just kidding.
I think it worked out best for everybody. Okay, so these agents, they were anticipating selling it in 2 to 3 months. And in my head, I'm like, nothing ever goes as planned, right? What I want is I want my money deployed and I want to make money from it. I don't want to buy this whole thing from you just to sell it in a month and I make $1,000. It's not worth it at my time in that, right?
And for those that can't do quick math, $120,000 loan, 10%, that's $12,000, right? So within a year, you want your money back plus 12 grand. And they're like totally cool.
Oh yeah, and they were making monthly payments on it as well. So I think 12 grand. I think they were making $1,000 a month payments to us.
Oh, okay. So did that go towards that interest?
Yep. So every month they had it, they would pay us $1,000, and then it would get deducted from the total amount that they owed due.
Was that $1,000 covering the payment that you had to make on the HELOC?
Oh, 100%. Back then we were lending that HELOC out at 3.5, which is really great. So I think we were only paying 3.5% interest on it, and we were making 10. So spread of 6.5 was pretty good.
So you're making more than enough to cover the payment plus more.
Yep, exactly. And then they actually did end up selling it within 3 to 4 months, and then we got our big payoff. They ended up making, I think, almost $90,000 collectively on that deal.
Yeah, after paying you.
Yeah, well, Sam and I made our $12,000, and I think it worked out really well for everyone. Would I structure a deal like that again? No.
Okay, and why not?
I'm learning, just from being the hard money broker that I am, like, skin in the game is very important, right? Again, this was an investment that we were comfortable taking on. If it didn't work out, I could have had a plan for it. But right now, like, my money costs money, and yeah, you're either gonna have to put a down payment on to lend out of my HELOC, or you're gonna have to pay some points, or I want equity in the deal. Like, it's not the most convenient money to use right now, so I need to make sure I'm using it in a smart way. And that just made me a better business person with it.
Yeah, we should talk about skin in the game for just a minute, because I feel like you're kind of glossing over it, but it's so important. I mean, it would have saved me so much headache if maybe my partners had more skin in the game, because I mean, I've had partnerships that I kind of structured where a lot of my partners, they didn't have to have any skin in the game, and I just anticipated them to follow through on some work, and when things didn't go well, partners went away, and no consequences to them, and that. I can go on and on and on about that, but people tend to get used to not contributing if they're not contributing right from the start on a deal. So if they're not putting any money up front, in my experience, it's likely that they're going to be very resistant to ever putting money into a deal if they don't do it from the beginning.
I agree with you 100%. And just for the record, you're not talking about me as a partner, right?
No, I'm not talking about you. I've had a lot of different partnerships. No, but you've had skin in the game from the beginning on these. On all my partnerships with you, you transfer money into my account. I've done a lot of partnerships with other people where that was not the case, and gosh, I ended up regretting it.
Sure. And I think you're absolutely right, Nick. I think you need to be, not just you, but everyone in general needs to vet their partners, right? Like, what are you contributing? What are you bringing to the table? If this goes south, how are we going to fix it? Right. And just having that solid game plan.
If people have something to potentially lose, they might pay attention.
And that's what we've done with like hard money brokering too, right? Like, you need a down payment most of the time. There's very few that we fund that don't need a down payment. Hardly any, unless you have like excellent cross collateral or anything like that. But typically there's a down payment involved.
Yeah. Let's see if I can kind of try to remember some of these final questions here.
Okay. Yeah. Are you ready to wind down? I've already got the hour mark. So
yeah. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Let's go, man. Yeah.
We can save the rest of the story for another time.
Yeah, well, we got more. We always got more. So, all right. Since you're the question man today, what kind of questions are you going to be asking me, Nick?
I'd like to ask, first off, what kind of food should people be eating while they finish this podcast out?
Ooh, that depends on if you have a gluten or celiac disease or anything like that. If you're allergic to gluten, don't do anything with bread, you silly goof. Maybe do a banana. Is peanut butter gluten free?
100%.
100%. So you're going to put some peanut butter on a banana and just eat that. That's going to be a very healthy snack for you. Otherwise, pizza all day.
Okay. At least until the end of this podcast.
At least until the end of the podcast, correct.
So, Jeremy, $30 million question. If somebody were to put $30 million into your account, what would be the first thing that you'd spend it on?
Man, $30 million is a lot of money, and you could live off that comfortably for the rest of your life. You could live off a couple million of that comfortably, right? Buy a house, pay off your car, live.
At least in 2023, but maybe not in 2040. Maybe $1 million people will be wiping their asses with.
I would buy a few more investments. Definitely not over leverage myself. Maybe an apartment or two. Kind of just get some rental cash flow going. Maybe into some syndications. I want to have my money work for me.
Okay, so you'd keep it in real estate.
I would keep it in real estate, 100%. I think people like us, and that I'm learning, obviously I'm a few years into this entrepreneurship journey, but we don't really have an off switch. Like, I know a lot of investors are like, yeah, I'd buy this, this, and this, but I'm like, you'd still be investing and you'd still be working, and you know it. I mean, like, the idea is to have financial freedom and time freedom, but what do we do with our time if we have it?
Totally. So, Jeremy, what do you think separates those like successful investors from the unsuccessfuls?
I think grit separates them. Grit and taking action, to be honest with you. You have to be able to do things, and you have to be able to get uncomfortable doing them. I think people that give up, once you give up, you fail, right? Like, if you said tomorrow, like, I quit, I can't do this anymore, you failed. Because you're not doing it and you can't keep up. The people who are successful are the people who are saying, how can I make this work? And who can I utilize to make it happen?
Yeah. Nice. So what books are you reading right now?
What books am I reading right now? Actually, I am reading the Self-Directed IRA Handbook by Matt Sorensen. We had him on our podcast, what was it, a few months ago?
A couple months ago, yeah. Late summer?
Yeah, just been a strategy I've been implementing into my investment. I've been telling people I have to plant the seed to make the tree grow, right? So I did one loan out of my IRA, which was super cool. I'm happy I know how to do that. And now this is the first year I've had it. So next year I'll be doubled in income plus more. That thing's just going to grow, and it's going to be a really cool investment tool for me to use.
Awesome. Yeah. For those that want to go back, Matt Sorensen, I forgot which episode, but it was in season 2, sometime in, I think, August.
Yeah, just type in the Investor Shed, Matt Sorensen. It'll pop up for you. So
yeah, Self-Directed IRA. He wrote the book.
It's cool, and it's really cool what you can and can't do with it. Again, what I'm doing right now with this is I'm kind of taking my HELOC method and applying it to the IRA. So I'm just getting money into my IRA so I can lend people and buy projects with. That's really all I'm doing with it, and build it tax-free.
Awesome. So Jeremy, when you're not out taking photos, doing real estate deals, doing hard money deals, what do you enjoy doing?
A lot of things, man. I like being outside. I like hanging out with my friends. Always good to get time with you and your family and kids. Wife's awesome. I like board games. I'm a pretty simple guy. Like being outside, like doing fun things with my fun people.
Now that it's fall time, we got to start doing more game nights.
We do got to start doing more game nights. We can also go disc golfing here soon too. I think would be pretty good.
Good time of year for that too. Yeah. I love fall time. Fall time in North Idaho is the best.
It's pretty good. Not too hot, not too cold. You get it.
Well, Jeremy, thank you for being our guest of honor today. I'm sure I'm missing one of the questions. Do you happen to remember?
I think you did pretty well on that. Honestly, I think from when you were flying by the seat of your pants and not looking at the itinerary, I think you did pretty well. So,
oh, thank you.
You're welcome. Well, hey man, yeah, thanks for having me. Thanks for continuing to teach growth upon me, and thanks for always being a cool resource for me. Happy to keep this train going with you, man.
Well, thanks for being a great friend and a great business partner. Appreciate everything you do. And the world appreciates everything that Jeremy Kitchen does. And thanks for keeping us on track here and keeping this channel alive. We will see you next week.
Thank you so much for checking out the Investor Shed podcast. If you enjoyed your time, make sure to leave a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Follow along on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram at The Investor Shed for shorts and promos about each episode. Do you want to be a guest or know someone who has great real estate investing advice and stories? Reach out to us at theinvestorshed@gmail.com.